Square. All I have is a postcard bring all the fire trucks. I called Johanna because I knew she lives in that neighborhood. Her husband said all he knew was he heard a loud explosion.
It's 642 Sheridan.
Right.
It's a multi-family building. It's on Sheridan Square.
Right.
Sheridan Square.
So he said the power went out for a moment and then came back. So, yes. So I'm sure I'll hear more from Greg in a few minutes. He knows how this works, so he'll let me know as soon as it's practical. Nothing on here that she's that concerned about initially. First night thing, she's in favor. Okay.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Rules Committee meeting of Monday, June 3rd, 2013 to order. We have a quorum present. All members are accounted for. First item on the agenda is citizen comment, and I do not believe we have any citizens signed up this evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 6th, 2013.
Move approval?
Is there a second? Any comments? All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is a request for funding for First Night Evanston 2013. And I believe we have a presentation. Thank you.
Emily Guthrie, president. You know, if you come up with an idea, they make you work, and they're making me work. I brought a bunch of things I'll pass around for you. The game, some of you may have seen.
I own it.
We have 1,000 of them in storage.
You do.
Yes, I will pass
Because not
around.
everybody
We're gonna
bought one.
pass them each way. You can see who some of the sponsors were. We are very fortunate in that a number of people who were affiliated with First Night before have stepped up. We have about 70 people who are helping us. We have a database of about 600 names. We collected names last summer at all the street fairs. People would cross the field to come and find us when they saw the banner up. We've got all kinds of stuff in storage, so we've had tremendous enthusiasm. As I said, we have 1,000 of those games. We're selling them at $15 each. We do deliver, if you would like to have some delivered. We've sold at least a couple hundred. We've started going out to corporate donors, people who helped us before, and no one, I am happy to say, no one has said no. The numbers are smaller than I would like. I've asked for extra zeros. Sometimes they get them, sometimes they don't. A 5 instead of a 1. But as I say, nobody has said no. So we're on track. We are lucky that one of the last festival managers, Corinne Pirog, was willing to do a budget for us. I think you received it. I have it in larger print if you need to be able to see it. It shows $65,000. We are estimating $75,000 just to be safe. And one of the things that I really feel like is a real stroke of luck is that a former student of Annie Heidemann's, Annie was one of the people who brought the idea to Evanston in 1992, former student of hers, Stuart Rosenberg, who does all the booking at Space, is going to help us find talent this year. And I think that's going to make a huge difference in the caliber of the performances. I said, if we're going to do this, I want this to really be top-notch. I want people talking about it for months afterwards. I want everybody looking forward to it. 2014. We decided one of the things we needed to do was to shrink it. It had gotten very large, Hinman to Ridge, Greenwood to Emerson. At one point, I think in the Millennium, we had 40 locations. We did have 15,000 people here the year at the Millennium. But we are shrinking it considerably, so we are going to be encircling Raymond Park. Music Institute has said yes. Lake Street Church has said yes. Congregational Church has said yes to both their sites. I've put out a feeler to the North Shore Hotel for a ballroom because we figure with the Dancing All-Stars on television, people will be even more interested in dancing. First Presbyterian Church are waiting to talk to Emmanuel Lutheran, which is at Lake, and Sherman has said yes. And I think I may go to the hotel across the street from Emmanuel Lutheran, see if they have a big room, because we're figuring a couple of rooms for good-sized bands and, dance lessons and then dancing. So I understand it was a topic that was discussed already by members of the City Council. I met with Wally last week. He said 12 or 18 months ago you started talking about maybe making a contribution. We would appreciate it. We would really appreciate it. It would help us go to other funders. It would get our numbers up. I was very hesitant to start signing contracts with artists when we didn't have much in the bank. We are waiting on our 501c3. It's now going into the 8th month with the IRS. And we went to Representative Schakowsky's office, and they are working through the back door, but the IRS is in turmoil. We're still hoping we can get that out of there. I'm expecting that. I can't imagine why they would say no, but we don't have it yet. But we're close. So I will take questions if anybody has any. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with it. People went. We've had people who didn't even come who've said they'll help because they heard about it.
All right, I think we have a few questions, a couple questions. Alderman Fisk?
Thanks, Emily. For our TV audience and for the record, could you just explain a little bit about the history of First Night and how it grew and the numbers of volunteers and the community involvement and support you've got in the past?
Sure. It started in 92, so the New Year's Eve 1992 was the first year. This actually started in Boston in 1975, and they get over 1 million people consistently in downtown Boston. They have now spread out. It's a 12-month thing for them. They go to various neighborhoods and have performances, and so it all feeds into the big thing on New Year's. I would love to get to that point, but I figure that's 5 or 10 years away. New Year's Eve for the Millennium was our biggest, 15,000. We were one of the biggest in the country that year, and we were certainly the biggest in Illinois. Right now, Rockford and Springfield are the only other two communities in Illinois that do it. And it really is a base for artists. It's not just celebration of New Year's. It brings in a lot of artists. So we had bands, we had singers, we had magicians, we had Second City. We're going to do an afternoon series for kids from 2 to 4, maybe 2 to 5. We figure with the restaurants, it's a real good fit for that. People can come, see a couple of things, go to dinner, come back to something else. It's just a great way to stay in town and celebrate New Year's Eve. Doug Gaynor has already asked me, please, no fireworks. So I think we'll do something, the fountains that the firework companies can do that, come up and maybe go 5 feet in the air, and it's a lot of sparklers and that sort of thing. A couple of food trucks have approached us. They would like to be there, hot cider and hopefully warm pretzels out on the street. The admission badge, which you wear around, is usually $12 or $15. We're going to try and keep it at that level. And Dick Peach, who some of you know because he's now president of the Chamber of Commerce, suggested that we go to Downtown Merchants and that button be good for maybe 90 days after New Year's Eve at various locations that want to cooperate, and you would get a free cup of coffee or a free little something or other if you walked in with the badge, which I think would tie in well with them and certainly give us more value for that button than just the 12 hours on New Year's Eve.
Great. Alderman Rainey?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we recommend to the council approving $10,000 of the Evanston 150 set aside for the purpose of supporting First Night.
And is there a second? Okay. And we could get that on the next regularly scheduled council meeting? Great. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Be more discussion.
Thank you very much.
I didn't mean to cut off discussion.
No more lights. No, there were no more lights.
Well, were there any more questions from anyone? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I said to somebody, I went to the Evanston Community Foundation workshop last week, and somebody was talking about finding money. And I said, it has been my experience in this community that if you have something good, you do have to go and ask for the money. But you will find the money. It's like Grandmother's Park Initiative. They're so close. So close. And I know they started out over 2 years ago feeling pretty desperate, but that's been my experience. So thank you. You will get the ball rolling for us.
Thank you. And next on the agenda, we have a presentation by the Board of Ethics.
I wasn't planning on asking for money, but since it's...
Might as well.
Yeah, now's the night. My name is Mark Sheldon. I am chair of the Board of Ethics. I served for, I guess it was 3 years previously, and then was reappointed to the board and reappointed to the chair. What I do regularly is teach at Northwestern. I actually teach ethics, and I'm also one of the deans in the college. In any case, I'm here this evening, and Michelle, our very helpful staff attorney, is here as well. So I'm here to really talk about our work plan for the next 2 years. I think you already have a description of what the plan is. I'll just touch on the different things that we're going to be doing. First goal is to revise the City of Evanston's financial disclosure statement to address state law requirements and develop an electronic filing system rather than having to deal with all the paper forms that we get. It seems as though it would be much easier at this point to do that. Second, to amend the City of Evanston's Code of Ethics to address ambiguities and other issues, and we've already done that in relation to, we've been drafting different things for that. And then third, review complaints of the Board of Ethics, conduct hearings, and issue advisory opinions. That's what we basically do, and we haven't had any previously in the past year or so, but we're always available for that reason. And then four, revise the Board of Ethics rules and procedures to match the Code of Ethics, parameters, purpose, and objectives of the board to make sure that those, both the Code of Ethics and the way in which we do business, make sure that those both are in sync with each other. Are there any questions at all?
Alderman Rainey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you tell us, in the last 4 years, the number of, do you call them cases, the number of cases that were brought before you, and the nature of some of them?
Yes. Let me just also mention, we have had people come and ask whether the issue that they're describing is the sort of issue that would be appropriate to come before the board. And you want me to describe
Just
those
some
again?
idea. Yeah.
Well, one question was the membership on the Arts Committee. If you remember, there was a point at which there was a lot of art put in public spaces in downtown Evanston, particularly unoccupied storefronts. And the question was whether there was any possible conflict of interest between whose art was being exhibited and who was serving on the board. Now, that person came and talked to us. Person never actually filed a complaint, but that person was wondering if that's the sort of thing that would be appropriate for us to deal with. So I'm describing one thing, and that nothing ever happened, but that person came and wanted to know about that. Another thing we did was deal with an issue of an alderman whose son is employed by a law firm that has business with the city.
That's one of the cases I know about.
Yeah. And we spent a long time reviewing the situation and concluded that there was no conflict of interest. One of the nice things is that we have 5 members at this point. We have a new person just appointed, Scott Turner. We had a little bit of difficulty with making a quorum during the period that we were dealing with that particular case. So that was a little bit.
Any others?
No, mostly it's reviewing the. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one other case, sure, involving the issue of lakefront development and the question of whether there were an architect who wanted to propose a plan could be a part of a committee that was considering the different proposals. And he tried to make clear that he didn't have any monetary interest. He just wanted to be there for discussions. He wasn't taking any money for it. We concluded that there was a conflict of interest. Even having his firm in some way involved and was giving publicity for his firm, a certain credibility for his firm, and we concluded that that was a conflict, and we recommended that he not be permitted to serve on that planning group. So those are the ones that I particularly remember.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your service, and thanks for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. I'm sorry, Alderman Fisk, did you have a question? Or?
I just wanted to say one thing really quickly, just again for the record, that the alderman in question with the son in the law firm that was asking for an advisory opinion from the alderman.
And we concluded that there was no conflict
Yes,
of interest.
thank you. Yes, I remember that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have a discussion on the agenda of our committee membership structure and schedule. Mr. City Manager, would you like to fill us in on the results of the circulated spreadsheet?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, good evening. You have in your packet the results of the circulation of the form. I apologize, I don't believe there's a page number, but it's titled Draft Aldermanic Committee Memberships 2013-2017. You can see listed the direction from the committee was to open up membership to any member of the council that was interested. So with Administration of Public Works, we have 5 aldermen, Planning and Development, 7 aldermen, Human Services, 6 aldermen, Rules, the full complement of the council plus the mayor, the Emergency Telephone Board, 2, 1 vacancy for the City Chamber Committee, as well as Alderman Wilson.
I neglected to resubmit.
Okay, so Alderman Nguyen and Alderman Wilson there. City Liaison Committee, Economic Development Committee is 1 less than we are currently constituted through that committee. So I think one of the issues, Mr. Chairman, this evening, if everyone is fine with this list, then we would need to go back and adjust the membership total of that committee and come back with some suggestions so that there's an odd number of committee members. Housing Commission, Housing and Community Development Act Committee, House Landing, MWEBE Committee, Northwestern City Committee, Transportation and Parking Committee, and then the SWANK alternate director, and I've been filling that role for the last almost 4 years, so unless there's any objections, I'm happy to continue doing that, and that is perfectly fine with SWANK. So if this is the list that the council would like to go with, Mr. Chair, then I think a motion would be in order. The other issue I would ask the committee to consider this evening are chair positions for getting started. As the memo at the beginning of this packet indicates, that under the current council rules, no alderman will chair 2 standing committees. If you can give us a set of 4 to start, we'll then come back to you with a schedule. Given the change in numbers, we may have to ask either for the council to waive that rule, change the rule, or make some other adjustments. But I think rather than deal with that this evening, we would come back and slot the members of the committee in order of seniority moving forward, and we'll see what kind of conflicts there would be if we did that.
All right, thank you. Alderman Burris.
I just had a clarification, Mr. Bobkowitz. Did you just say we'd have to go back and change the rules for the Economic Development Committee to make sure there's an odd number of committee members?
If I didn't say odd, I meant to say odd.
You did say odd.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to...
all of our boards and commissions have an odd number?
That's fine. So what I'm going to suggest is I'm happy to go back on economic development to make it so we don't have to go back and... I'm already here for planning our parking and transportation, so it's fine for me to stay on the committee.
Okay.
Okay. Alderman Grover.
I'll move approval of the aldermanic committee membership as set forth in that attachment to the memo, with the addition of Alderman Burris to Economic Development Committee and Alderman Nguyen to the City Chamber Committee.
Second.
Alderman Rainey.
I don't think there's a rule that says our committees have to be an odd number. I don't recall seeing that.
And Alderman Rainey, I didn't mean to imply that there was a rule. I think that most of our boards and commissions are constituted by either resolution or ordinance, and so we would just need to go back and amend whatever that was. So if you'd like it even, you could have it even.
I missed the reason why you're saying that, though.
Sorry?
I missed the reason why you're saying we have to go back and amend something.
Well, because we have, and I don't have the authorizing language in front of me, that the committee was constituted either by ordinance or resolution with a certain number, and if that number is going to change.
The number of people, not have, okay.
The number and the composition.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So it's really,
right.
I think the council's been fairly flexible in that. I would just want to make sure that the committee matches whatever the authorizing language is.
I
But
understand.
it sounds like Alderman Burris is taking care of
Okay,
that.
thank you.
I'm here anyway.
All right. Alderman Grover. You'll pass. Alderman Tandem. Just watching you.
My question is, would it be of interest since we are all the same council that we were the past 4 years, if we stayed with the same rotation that we're already using? Concerns I have are, like, for instance, Rules Committee, Alderman Wilson. If we go back to the beginning of the order, Alderman Braithwaite would essentially not be chairing the Rules Committee for probably until the end of this election cycle in 4 years. So I'm wondering if it's fair to skip over the lower half of the alphabet, especially since my name is in that group, to start with the start over with the seniority in alphabetical order.
Okay, Alderman Rainey.
You know, I disapprove of that idea, and let me explain to you that I have not chaired a committee in the last 3.5 years. So, you know, I did it all at the beginning. So people just have to wait their turn. Everything will work out. I'm dropping down on like 3 different committees because I'm listed as chair right now as all these committees. I can't do that. So I'm dropping down so people will have an opportunity to move up. But, you know, these are the kinds of little, I'm not going to say nitpicking, but minor changes that aren't necessary, you know, and you've got to establish some institutionalization of how we do business. And I think it's important to leave it in place.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes, thank you. So just so I understand, Mr. City Manager, were you asking us for 4 names so that essentially it's planning and development, NPW, rules, and economic development all have a way to start so that Alderman Rainey is not chair of 4 of them?
Well, nobody. It's not.
No, I know.
It's not allowed.
Right, but then if we go down the list, then you are chair of one, I'm chair of another, Alderman Holmes is chair of another, and then we need a 4th name.
And then we go back second.
And then it segues
then
back.
We're the next chair of the next committee that we choose.
Right.
So.
It only affects the standing committees, which would just be AP&W, Planning, and Human Services and Rules. Those are the ones
If
that
I can give you an example from 4
Right.
years ago. So the first chairs of the last city council, Alderman Rainey was the first chair of Administration and Public Works, Alderman Nguyen was the first chair of Planning and Development, Alderman John Baptiste was the first chair of Human Services, followed by Alderman Holmes, Alderman Rainey was the first chair of Rules, and Alderman Rainey was the first chair of Economic Development.
Right.
So under the council's rules, you could repeat that because you can only have one alderman who serves as chair of Administration, Public Works, Planning and Development, Human Services. That rule does not apply to the Rules Committee or the Economic Development Committee.
I forgot about that. Okay.
So that's why you were able to do it the way you were able to do it 4 years ago. So I think quite simply, there are 3 senior members of the council, Alderman Rainey, Alderman Nguyen, and Alderman Holmes. If you select where you'd like to be to start, then I think we could fill in rules and economic development and then go from there. And we'll come back with a list in seniority order for your July meeting to be concurred by the committee, and we'll go from there.
That would be fine.
And if there's adjustments that need to be made, we'll do that in July.
I understand. Thank you.
Alderman Rainey.
I would just like to say the order which I would like to chair. I would just like to say the order. I have to repeat it because I have my microphone off. And by the way, just for everybody's edification, the League of Women Voters would like to make certain that we all speak in the microphone and have our microphones turned on during meetings because they cannot hear us. And I am the main guilty party. I would like to chair Administration and Public Works the first go-round, and Planning and Development the second go-round, and Rules whenever that comes up.
So Alderman Nguyen?
Well, I think by default would be the chair of Planning and Development first. And then it doesn't matter to me when I go on rules.
Alderman Holmes?
That's fine on Human Services, and that's fine on those okay.
Who would like to be the first chair of the Rules Committee?
It doesn't matter.
Rules doesn't matter.
Well, but functionally, it'd be nice to
between-
have a new chair for the next meeting,
Between Alderman Holmes and me?
or anyone else on the council.
Peter.
We could give it to Peter.
You could start in the
Okay.
Right, because
All right.
he missed
Yeah,
his
yeah.
chance.
He's totally not volunteering. We're being voluntold.
Let's have Peter do it.
That's
Yeah.
And he's even in the room, and he's like,
And then
Just take one step backward.
and then last, economic development, first chair.
I'll take it. I'll leave it where it is.
All right, very good. So, Mr. Chairman, if there could be a motion that would appoint Alderman Rainey, Chair of Economic Development and Administration of Public Works, Alderman Nguyen, Chair of Planning and Development, Alderman Holmes, Chair of Human Services, and Alderman Braithwaite, Chair of Rules, as the first chair, then we'll come back with a schedule for the remaining 4 years.
We did not, but Alderman Fisk, did you have something to add before
I just had a question about the appropriateness of I guess, Alderman Grover, you're going to serve on every single standing committee. Are you going to have time to do that? I mean, no one else is doing that, which is why I'm asking.
It's been done before.
It's been done before that someone's been
I
on?
believe
Okay.
so. I think Alderman Rainey did it before.
Okay. Alderman Rainey, you've done that, and that's possible?
A wonderful way to spend it.
Okay, all right. As long as there's time to do that.
I'm here anyway, Alderman Fisk. Thank you very much. And, if you're worried about my qualifications, my favorite class in law school was land use.
Alderman Grover, did you have?
That explains a lot.
Yes. If I may amend my motion, which was the motion for appointments to our committees, I would also amend that to include appointing Alderman Rainey as the first chair of Administration and Public Works, Alderman Nguyen is the first chairperson of Planning and Development Committee, Alderman Holmes, as stated, for Human Services, Alderman Braithwaite for our first chair of the Rules Committee, and Alderman Rainey again as the first chair of Economic Development Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is the plan. All right. Next, we have a request by the City Manager's Office for a holiday on July 5th. Closure of city offices.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, strategic planning. Everyone bring your calendars.
You know what? I didn't work on that at all.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, as you know, we've been looking for a date to have a strategic planning session. We thought we were close with a June date, but that will not work for everyone in the council. I forwarded to the council last week additional dates at the end of July. I would call your attention to Monday, July 29th. That's a fifth Monday. There are no other meetings scheduled, and I know the council generally embraces all else being equal, having a meeting on that fifth Monday. So perhaps that would be the date, and I'm seeing nods, Mr. Chair, that we would have a fifth Monday meeting. I would propose that we do it in the Aldermanic Library and that we make arrangements to have it either televised or just have the audio recorded. I think we could do a single camera because I would want to be consistent with making that meeting available for anyone, but would not necessarily be live, although we probably could figure out a way to make it live, but to do it in the council, in the Aldermanic Library, so that it's a little bit easier to chat.
All right. I don't think we don't need a motion on it, do we?
What time would we begin? Could we begin earlier?
Well, I had proposed at 6 o'clock. Is that early enough on Monday, July 29th?
Let's go 6:30 just to make
6:30?
Is that all right with everybody?
6:30 on July 29th? Great. So 6:30 on July 29th, we'll provide food. Jean Bonander, who is the consultant that I've retained, will be able to be here for that meeting. She'll also probably be here a few additional days to talk to individuals and small groups to work on some other issues. So, but we'll have the 29th as the main date. Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Chair.
thank you. Is there any additional new business? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned until the Human Services meeting at 7:30. 7:30. Thank you.